Hi, my name's Paige, and for my myth story, I will be covering the Briar story by Brothers Grimm, also known as Sleeping Beauty. So this wasn't the first publication by them or even of the story in general. So the story that I'm actually pulling from is the Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales that was published in 2011. And the first publication by Brothers Grimm was in 1812. So other versions of the story, one of the most well-known is the Walt Disney's cartoon animation of Sleeping Beauty, which is here on the right-hand side. I'm sure most people have seen it. And then one of the original stories of Sleeping Beauty is by I'm going to butcher the name, Gambia Batista Bazile. Sorry. So this is one of the original stories of Sleeping Beauty. It's the Sun, Moon, and Talia. So the Walt Disney version, her name is Aurora. She's also referred to as Briar Rose or just Rose. In the story, for a background overview of each story, and then we'll get into the one that I'm breaking down. This story, you have the king who throws the party, and he invites everybody in the kingdom except for Maleficent, who is the sorceress who curses the child. The three good fairies come in and they start to bless the child with gifts. However, before Merryweather can give her gift to the child, Maleficent shows up and curses Aurora and says by the time of her 16th birthday, she will prick her finger on a spindle of a spinning wheel and die. Well, she disappears, and the king orders for all of the spinning wheels to be burned throughout the entire kingdom. And Merryweather gives her gift as though it won't be death, but it will be a sleep-like death. And the curse can be broken with a kiss, true love's first kiss. And so to keep Briar Rose from fulfilling the prophecy, the three fairies take her into the woods and raise her as her own, and the princess disappears. Nobody aside from the king, queen, and the three fairies know where she is or that they are raising her. So they decide to call her Briar Rose, also Rose for short, instead of going by her birth given name, which is Aurora. That way nobody knows who she is. Right before her 16th birthday, she's out and she meets a stranger who is Prince Philip, who she's betrothed to. She doesn't know he's a prince. They sing a song and then they rush back. She rushes home and tells him to meet her at the house later. Long story short, the fairies tell her who she really is and that they take her to the castle and say that she can never see him again because they don't know that it's Prince Philip. They just think it's a random stranger. Well, she's very upset and they leave her in her room once they've gotten back to the castle by herself, and this voice starts to call to her, and it's a big ordeal. She follows it and then she pricks her finger, and the fairies have to go find Prince Philip to break the curse. He has to fight Maleficent, and he eventually gets to the castle and kisses her and breaks the spell. Now for Gambia Batista Bazils, you have Talia, who is the daughter of a lord, and he has some astrologers come tell her fate, and they say she's going to prick her finger on a spindle of flax, and it ends up happening several years later. And the king finds Talia and is very upset, and he has her, the lord finds her and has her placed in one of his estates. And a couple years go by, I think, and a king is riding and loses his bird. I think it's a falcon or a hawk, and goes to look for it, and he finds Talia asleep, and then he has sex with her. She becomes pregnant, and when she's pregnant, she's still asleep throughout all of this. Some fairies come and help give birth to the children and help nurse them. One of the children ended up sucking the splinter out of Talia's finger, and it woke her up. And the fairies explained what happened because she had no recollection of how she has children. And so she named them Sun and Moon. And the king ended up coming back because he missed her. Never had a conversation with her, but he missed her. And he found out that he has children now, but the king has a wife, so he had to go home to his kingdom and his queen. And he was missing Talia and the kids so much that he was calling their names in his sleep. And the queen got suspicious and eventually found out about Talia and said to have her killed, but instead the king killed her. There's a lot to that story, but it's actually pretty good, so I highly recommend reading it sometime if you haven't. So the thing is with Sleeping Beauty, in every story, whether it be Briar, Rose, Aurora, or Talia, they all become known as Sleeping Beauty because they fall into a death-like sleep after touching a spindle. And Sleeping Beauty is an epithet, which is a nickname that replaces a character's name and usually describes them somehow. So why are we retelling the story of Sleeping Beauty? A good story goes beyond the reader wanting to know what's happening with the characters and just following the normal plot. It makes the reader want to understand the thoughts and feelings of the character and why they're doing what they're doing and what makes them tick. In some cases, you begin to feel like you're a part of the story, or you can see yourself in a particular character or somebody you know in that character or another character. It makes you empathize with them. In the case of Sleeping Beauty, each story goes well beyond what the surface level meaning is. There's just so much more to each one. So for my story, the story of Briar Rose by Brothers Grimm, the story starts by telling us that there's a king and queen who desperately want a child. And one day, while the queen was bathing, a frog came to her and said, "You will have a daughter by the end of the year." And what the frog said did indeed come true, and she gave birth to a baby girl. So the frog represents some amazing things throughout history. So one of the most common things is that it's a change in life or a transition. Other sources say that it represents fertility or circle of life. I'm sorry, I have a cat in the room and it keeps meowing. In this case, the queen is being told by a frog that she will have a child, and so by this symbol of a frog meaning what it does throughout history, it's a huge deal for them because they know it's probably going to come true, which it does. So at the time of the birth, the king was just overjoyed and excited and decided to host a feast in the honor of his child's birth. Well, the king wished to invite not only his friends and family, but the 13 wise women of the kingdom as well. However, due to not having enough golden plates, he only invited 12 of the wise women. And one of them didn't receive an invitation. She was very, very mad about it and came to the feast uninvited and cursed the child. So the number 12 is called the number of perfection, and it represents cosmic order. For instance, the number 12 is used in the Bible. The 12 disciples of Jesus, the 12 sons of Jacob, or the tree of life bearing 12 fruits. As for the number 13, this number is seen as unlucky and can also represent death and suffering. So you've got 13, which is chaos, and 12, which is cosmos. So he had chaos the entire time and was trying to control it by only inviting 12. And you can't control chaos. Chaos is chaos. That is what it is. So upon Briar Rose's 15th birthday, the curse said that she would prick her finger on a spindle and die. But there was still hope for Briar Rose because one of the wise women had yet to bestow her gift to the child. Her gift was that it would not be death, but a death-like sleep that would last 100 years. On her 15th birthday, the prophecy was fulfilled, and Rose did prick her finger on a spindle and fell into a death-like sleep. So this is the inevitable fate here. So the Greek term morai comes from the fates. That's what that is. If you've ever seen Hercules, it's the three sisters that hold the eye and they tell you your destiny. So it's a predetermined event. They hold the power to create destiny. It's a huge ordeal because that her future's already been predicted, but in a way it's also a self-fulfilling prophecy because nobody told her of her curse, and so they never educated her that she should stay away from the spindles. And so she was very curious whenever she saw one for the first time, and she pricked her finger, which fulfilled the prophecy. So it was an inevitable fate. So no matter what story you're looking at, Briar Rose will prick her finger on a spindle and fall into a death-like sleep. So years went by, and the story of Sleeping Beauty traveled throughout the land, and many tried to reach the kingdom, but none prevailed due to the hedge of thorns that surrounded the castle. Upon the 100th year, a prince heard the tale and sought out the kingdom. By this time, the hedge of thorns had turned into a beautiful thing of flowers. Once the prince arrived, he explored the entire castle. Eventually, the prince found Briar Rose asleep, and he was so enamored by her beauty that he kissed her, and after the kiss, Briar Rose awoke from her 100-year sleep. So the number 100 is referring to the symbol life, which would make sense because Briar Rose will awaken on the 100th year. This same instance with 100 years can be seen in the Bible with Abraham when his son Isaac is born when he's 100 years old. So in conclusion, Briar Rose and the prince went down to find the king and queen who had just awoken from their sleep as well. And Briar Rose and the prince lived the rest of their days together. The overall lying narrative myth is that true love conquers all and that love always prevails. And this can be seen here in this story. So like, you have true love's first kiss, or true love always prevails, or true love conquers all. That's the whole myth theme going on with this story. There are underlying myths that are in the story as well, or mythical essences or things that can have a myth attached to them, such as the numbers or the frog, which help move the story along. But it's just an amazing ordeal, and I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and I really, really hope that you all can take the time to look at these stories on your own. These are my citations, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.